Hi everyone! Before we get into this audiobook, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button and drop a like. It helps me out a lot as well as contributes a lot to the channel. Now, let's get into the story. I hope you enjoy. The forest, usually Lyra's solace and shroud, felt different that twilight. A cold, insidious mist, thicker than any she had known, clung to the ancient pines, obscuring even the familiar silhouette of the distant peaks. The air itself tasted metallic, acrid, a stark contrast to the usual crisp scent of damp earth and decaying leaves that marked her solitary existence. Lyra, a shadow among shadows, moved with the preternatural quietness that had become her second nature. Every rustle of a squirrel, every distant hoot of an owl, was a symphony in her heightened senses. Yet what truly seized her attention was the rising crescendo of conflict. She was a rogue, a lone wolf by birthright and necessity. Her lineage, whispered about in hushed, fearful tones in the rare encounters she'd had with pack wolves, carried a burden of secrecy. Her gift, an innate ability to mend flesh and soothe spirit, flowed through her veins like the very lifeblood of the earth, potent and profound. It was a power that had to be hidden, suppressed, for it was both her salvation and her curse. Pack laws were ironclad, their justice swift and unforgiving for those outside their rigid structures, and healers, especially those with gifts as potent as hers, were often viewed with a superstitious terror that quickly morphed into lethal aggression. She had learned early, brutally, that the packs would never tolerate what they could not understand or control. Tonight, however, the primal instinct for self-preservation battled with a strange, undeniable pull. The scent of battle was unmistakable, thick, cloying copper, mingling with the sharp tang of fear and adrenaline. It wasn't the scent of a mere skirmish or a territorial dispute. This was a scent of desperation, of a force overwhelming, of lives being extinguished. It pulsed in the air, a raw, almost physical pain that prickled at her skin, resonating with something deep within her. She should retreat. Disappear into the anonymity of the deep wilderness. Let the pack wolves tear each other apart. Her life depended on her invisibility, her anonymity. Yet, a compelling curiosity, a strange sense of impending destiny, tugged at her, pulling her deeper into the heart of the contested lands. It was as if an invisible thread, spun from the very essence of fate, reeled her in, closer and closer to the source of the agony. She moved like a wraith, her lithe frame weaving through the dense thickets, her silver-gray wolf fur blending almost perfectly with the deepening gloom. Her keen eyes, usually scanning for prey or peril, were now fixed on the path ahead, following the intensifying sounds of violence. The guttural snarls of wolves, the sickening thud of bodies colliding, the sharp crack of breaking bone, all converged into a horrifying symphony of destruction. Each sound sent a fresh wave of unease through her, a visceral reminder of the brutal world she inhabited. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drum against the backdrop of the unfolding carnage. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to flee, to save herself. But the inexplicable pull grew stronger, an almost painful ache in her chest, urging her onward, drawing her towards an unknown, terrifying truth. And then she saw him. He was immense. A towering shadow of dark fur sprawled unnaturally on the blood-soaked ground, a stark monument to a losing battle. His powerful body, once radiating undeniable strength, was now unnervingly still, matted with crimson. He was an alpha, she knew, instinctively, with a certainty that resonated through her very bones. The sheer aura of command, the raw, untamed power that pulsed weakly around him, was undeniable even in his dying moments. His pack, fewer in number than the attacking aggressors, fought with a desperate ferocity, their snarls turning to whimpers of defeat as they were systematically overwhelmed, decimated. Their leader, their anchor, was slipping away, and with him, their hope. Lyra's breath hitched, caught in her throat. A wave of searing pain, not her own, but radiating from him, slammed into her, an agony so profound it stole the air from her lungs, bringing her to her knees. It was then, as she instinctively reached out with her healing gift, letting the raw energy surge from her palms, that she felt it. A jolt, an electric current, searing and profound, surged through her veins, radiating outwards, connecting them. It was a bond, ancient and primal, unmistakable in its intensity. The scent of him, raw blood and pine, mingled with something else, something uniquely his, something deep and resonant that called to her, resonated with her deepest essence. Her instincts screamed the truth, raw and undeniable. He was her mate, her destined partner, the other half of her soul, tethered to her by a thread woven by fate itself. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow, staggering her, stealing her breath. She, a lone rogue, an outcast, a creature of the shadows, had found her mate amidst the brutal carnage of battle, and he was an alpha, likely the leader of the very pack that hunted her kind, that condemned her existence. The irony was a bitter, metallic taste in her mouth, yet the bond, a silken thread of warmth and undeniable connection, was an almost painful thrum, pulling at her very core, resonating with a yearning she had never known. There was no time for contemplation, no room for the terrifying implications of this discovery. He was dying. The other wolves, still locked in brutal combat, were oblivious to her presence, their senses overwhelmed by the chaos of the fight. This was her only chance. Her healer's instincts, honed by a lifetime of hidden interventions, surged to the forefront, overriding all caution. She moved, a blur of motion, slipping through the shadows like a phantom, her light frame barely disturbing the fallen leaves. Her healing gift, usually a gentle hum, now flared to life, a roaring inferno within her, demanding release. She knelt beside him, her trembling fingers hovering over the gaping wound in his side, a ragged testament to the ferocity of the attack. His fur, thick and dark, felt surprisingly soft beneath her touch, a strange sensation amidst the desperate urgency. She pressed her palms against his skin, channeling every ounce of her power, every fiber of her being, into the dying alpha. She poured her very essence into him, feeling the life force ebb from her and surge into his ravaged body. The raw agony emanating from him intensified for a searing moment, then slowly, miraculously, began to recede, like a tide pulling back from the shore. His ragged breaths evened out, becoming deeper, stronger, filling his powerful lungs with renewed vitality. The gaping wound, though still horrific, began to knit, the torn flesh drawing together with an impossible speed, leaving behind only an angry, fading red line. His powerful heart, which had been faltering, now beat with a renewed rhythm, strong and steady, a powerful drum against her trembling palms. She felt the subtle shift in his life force, the ebb and flow of vitality returning to his ravaged body. A profound sense of success washing over her. Her own energy, however, drained from her, leaving her weak and trembling, her head spinning with the sheer exertion. The world tilted slightly, her vision blurring at the edges. She watched, mesmerized, as his eyelids fluttered, a raw power stirring beneath them. A groan, deep and guttural, escaped his lips, a sound of returning consciousness. His eyes, dark as obsidian and sharp with a predator's instinct, slowly opened, focusing on her, on the delicate hand still pressed against his fur. Recognition, raw and questioning, flickered in their depths, replacing the haze of pain. He shifted, a powerful tremor running through his massive frame, attempting to rise, his gaze never leaving hers. Panic, cold and sharp, seized Lyra. Discovery meant certain death. The bond, the mate pull, was a terrifying complication she could not afford. Not now. Not ever. Her existence depended on remaining unseen, unknown, a whisper in the wind. If he knew who she was, a rogue, a healer, a creature of the shadows, it could shatter the fragile peace she had so painstakingly built over years of isolation. It would expose her, put her and everything she held dear in unimaginable peril. The weight of her lineage, the whispers of ancient curses and feared gifts, was a heavy chain that bound her to secrecy. Before he could fully rise, before he could speak, before the other wolves, now slowly gaining the upper hand against the scattered remnants of their attackers, could turn their attention to her, Lyra snatched her hand away. The instant she broke contact, the bond, though still present, thrummed with a muted ache, a soft hum of protest, like a violin string plucked then released. She scrambled backward, dissolving into the deeper shadows of the forest, moving with silent, desperate speed. Her limbs, heavy with exhaustion, still carried her swiftly, fueled by the cold adrenaline of fear. She ran, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs, not stopping until the sounds of the battle faded behind her, until the scent of blood and pack faded from her keen senses. She was safe, for now, but the image of his eyes, dark and searching, branded itself onto her memory, a constant reminder of the profound moment they had shared. And the bond, a warm, persistent thrum beneath her skin, hummed with a life of its own, a silent testament to the undeniable connection that now bound her to an alpha she had saved but could never truly claim. The forest, once her sanctuary, now felt like a cage, for she was hiding the most profound truth of her existence from the very wolf destiny had chosen for her. The secret was a burning coal in her chest, searing her with its impossible weight. The days that followed the battle were a torment of fractured sleep and heightened senses for Lyra. The bond, a shimmering thread of gold and warmth, pulsed beneath her skin, a constant, undeniable reminder of the alpha she had touched, the life she had saved, the mate she now fled. Every gust of wind seemed to carry his scent, pine and damp earth, yes, but also something else, something uniquely his, something that spoke of untamed power and a deep, resonant core. It clung to her, an invisible tether, even miles from the battleground. She scrubbed at her skin, desperate to erase the phantom touch, the lingering presence of him, but it was futile. The connection was internal, woven into the very fabric of her being, a part of her now as much as her own heartbeat. She knew his pack, the Obsidian Claw Pack. Their territory bordered the desolate, unclaimed lands where Lyra had carved out her precarious existence. They were renowned for their ferocity, their unwavering loyalty to their alpha, and their ruthless pursuit of any perceived threat, especially rogues. The thought of their leader, the formidable alpha, haunted by her scent, actively searching for her, sent a shiver of pure dread down her spine. Discovery would mean certain capture, interrogation, and likely a brutal end. She imagined the cold, calculating eyes of pack elders, the accusations, the inevitable condemnation. Her history, the very reason for her exile, was a dark, ever-present cloud. Lyra redoubled her efforts to remain invisible. She moved deeper into the forgotten corners of the wilderness, to places even the most seasoned hunters rarely ventured. She learned to read the subtle shifts in the wind, understanding how scent carried, using it to mask her own trail. She hunted with even greater caution, moving silently, leaving no discernible trace of her passage. Her small, hidden den, tucked away beneath the gnarled roots of an ancient oak, became her sanctuary, a place where she could shed her human skin and allow the wolf within to breathe. In her wolf form, a sleek, silver-gray creature of deceptive speed and agility, she felt a raw, primal freedom, a temporary reprieve from the crushing weight of her human dilemma. She ran through the moonlit forests, her paws barely touching the frosted ground, a whisper of a creature against the vast, silent backdrop of the wilderness. But even in wolf form, the bond persisted, a low thrumming in her chest, a constant echo of his presence. She felt his frustration, his raw determination, his relentless need to find her. The sheer force of his will, even from a distance, was palpable, a testament to his undeniable strength, a relentless current pulling at her. He was a force of nature, an unstoppable tide, and she, a lone ripple, was attempting to outrun the ocean. One frigid morning, while tracking a deer, Lyra caught a new scent on the wind. It was faint at first, then stronger, carrying the unmistakable musk of obsidian claw wolves. But it was not just any wolf. It was his scent, powerful and intoxicating, intertwined with the familiar musk of his trackers, like a predatory perfume. He was close, closer than ever before. A sudden, sharp panic seized her, tightening her chest. Her heart hammered against her ribs, threatening to burst through her chest, a frantic drum against her ears. She froze, melting into the shadows of a dense thicket, her silver fur blending almost perfectly with the snow-dusted branches, becoming one with the environment. Her breath hitched, shallow and ragged. The crunch of paws on frozen earth grew louder, closer. She could hear the distinct panting of the wolves, the subtle shift of their weight, their proximity chilling her to the bone. Every fiber of her being screamed at her to flee, to disappear, to become truly invisible. Through a small gap in the bushes, she saw them. Not just the Alpha and his 2 scouts, but half a dozen more, their dark fur almost indistinguishable from the shadows, their eyes gleaming with predatory intent. They moved with a terrifying precision, their noses to the ground, their movements methodical, relentless. The third, larger than the others, his presence radiating an undeniable authority that made the very air vibrate, was the Alpha himself. He was the focus of their concerted search, the driving force behind their unwavering persistence. He was magnificent. Even in wolf form, his sheer power was breathtaking, an aura that commanded immediate respect and awe. His fur, the color of midnight, seemed to absorb the meager light, making him a living shadow, a creature born of the night. His eyes, intelligent and piercing, scanned the forest with an intensity that made Lyra's breath catch in her throat, feeling as if they could see into her very soul. His head was held high, his movements fluid and powerful, every muscle rippling beneath his sleek coat, a symphony of controlled strength. He was fully healed, a testament to the potency of her gift, to the raw power she had channeled into him. A surge of pride, deep and undeniable, mixed with a profound dread, washed over her. He was whole, powerful, and relentless in his search for her. He stopped abruptly, his head snapping up, his nostrils flaring, drawing in the cold air, analyzing every molecule. He let out a low, frustrated growl, a sound that reverberated deep in Lyra's chest, making the might bond thrum with an almost painful intensity. The scent. He was picking up her lingering scent, the one she couldn't completely mask, the one that screamed her presence to him, that called to him with an undeniable urgency. "It's here." The Alpha's deep voice rumbled, the sound carrying clearly through the crisp air, resonating with authority. It was a voice that commanded obedience, a voice of raw, untamed power, filled with an underlying yearning. The scent, it's stronger than ever. "She's close, my healer." His voice held a strange mixture of frustration and desperate yearning, a palpable need to find the one who had saved him, the one who now haunted his every thought. One of the scouts, a lean, scarred wolf, whined softly, a low sound of exhaustion. "Alpha, we've covered these lands for days. No sign of rogue activity. This sentence unlike any other. It's elusive, almost ghostly. It's as if she's here and gone in the same breath." "Ghostly, perhaps," the Alpha retorted, his voice sharp, a cutting edge to his words. "But undeniably real. She saved my life. I felt her touch, the warmth, the power surge back into me. And her scenta, it's burned into my very being, into my very soul. It is a part of me now. I will not rest until I find her." He let out a piercing howl, a mournful, searching cry that echoed through the forest. A sound of profound yearning that tore at Lyra's heart, resonating with her own suppressed longing. It was a direct call, a plea to the unknown healer, a demand for her presence. A primal summons that stirred her deepest instincts. The mate bond flared in response, a painful tug, urging her to step forward, to reveal herself, to answer his desperate call. Lyra clenched her paws, digging her claws into the frozen earth, grounding herself against the overwhelming urge to respond. Her very instincts screamed at her to respond, to run to him, to reveal herself to her mate. But her mind, cold and rational, screamed louder. "No? Not yet. Not like this." She imagined the consequences, the suspicion, the interrogation, the revelation of her rogue status, the potential destruction of the fragile peace she had so painstakingly built over years of isolated survival. Her family's past, the very reason for her exile, was a dark cloud hanging over her, a constant reminder of the dangers of exposure. Could she truly trust an Alpha, a leader of the very pack that condemned her kind, with such a dangerous truth? Could she risk everything on a bond, however powerful, that might be shattered by ancient prejudices? She remained frozen, her body tense, every muscle screaming for release, for movement, for flight. The Alpha paced, his frustration palpable, his powerful nose sweeping the air, desperate to pinpoint her exact location, to find the source of the intoxicating scent. His eyes, sharp and intense, seemed to pierce the very shadows where she hid, as if he could feel her presence even without seeing her. She felt the intensity of his gaze, a physical pressure, as if he were trying to pull her from her hiding place with sheer force of will, to materialize her from the very air. The other scouts, sensing their Alpha's growing frustration, began to fan out, widening their search pattern, their movements more hurried, more desperate. Lyra knew her time was running out. She had to move. No. Her heart pounded, a deafening roar in her ears. With agonizing slowness, she began to retreat, moving deeper into the dense undergrowth, her every movement meticulous, silent, a study in stealth. She bypassed the open clearing, opting for a longer, more circuitous route, her senses acutely aware of every rustle, every snap of a twig, every faint scent of the surrounding wolves. The alpha's scent, though still strong, slowly began to recede as she put more distance between them. A gradual fading that brought a mixture of relief and aching loss. She ran for hours, a primal fear driving her, not stopping until she reached the safety of her hidden den, her muscles screaming in protest, her lungs burning, her body pushed to its absolute limits. She collapsed inside, reverting to human form, shivering despite the warmth of her furs, the raw exhaustion finally claiming her. The bond, still thrumming, now carried a faint echo of his frustration, of his continuing, relentless search, a silent lament across the vastness of the wilderness. He was searching for his healer. He was searching for his mate. And she, her heart aching with a truth she desperately longed to share, was hiding in the shadows, clinging to a secret that could either destroy her or, perhaps, if fate was kind, lead them to a future she now dared to dream of. A future that felt both impossibly distant and tantalizingly close. The stakes were higher than ever, and Lyra knew, with a chilling certainty, that the fragile peace she had fought so hard to protect was on the verge of shattering. The game of hide-and-seek with destiny could not last forever. The relentless search by the Obsidian Claw Pack, specifically by their alpha, became a chilling constant in Lyra's solitary life. Every rustle of leaves, every distant howl, every shift in the wind's direction brought with it a jolt of anxiety, a primal urge to disappear. She was a shadow, perpetually fleeing her own destiny, a rogue haunted by the scent of her mate, a ghost dancing just beyond his reach. The mate bond, a silken cord of undeniable connection, thrummed beneath her skin, a constant reminder of the profound truth she desperately tried to outrun. It was a silent conversation between their souls, a dialogue of longing and frustration, hope and fear, played out across miles of unforgiving wilderness. Despite the danger, Lyra found herself drawn, almost unconsciously, to the fringes of the Obsidian Claw territory. Not to reveal herself, but to observe. She would perch on high ridges, hidden by dense foliage, her keen eyes observing the pack from a distance. She saw the alpha's tireless patrols, his determined efforts to find her, his powerful form moving with an undeniable purpose. She witnessed the unspoken respect his pack held for him, the ease with which he commanded their loyalty, the way they moved as a single, cohesive unit. He was a natural leader, powerful, yet fair, his decisions guided by a deep-seated instinct for the well-being of his pack. She saw him interact with his betas, a stern word here, a reassuring touch there, his authority tempered with genuine care. He cared for his pack, a stark contrast to the distant, sometimes tyrannical alphas of other territories she had heard whispers about. Those who ruled through fear rather than respect. This observation, though dangerous, softened her ingrained distrust of pack leaders, chipping away at the rigid walls she had meticulously built around her heart. She found herself admiring his strength, his dedication, the quiet burden of leadership he carried. One frigid afternoon, a howling blizzard descended upon the lands, blanketing the forest in a thick shroud of white. The wind shrieked through the trees, a banshee's cry, and the snow fell in relentless sheets, reducing visibility to mere feet. The world became a swirling vortex of white, the familiar landscape rendered alien and dangerous. Lyra, caught far from her primary den, sought refuge in a small, rarely used cave, tucked deep within a forgotten ridge. She huddled against the biting cold, her furs pulled tight around her, shivering uncontrollably as the icy air seeped into her very bones. Hours later, the storm showed no signs of abating. The cold was brutal, a relentless assault on her already weary body. Her meager provisions were running low, and the thought of venturing out into the whiteout was terrifying. She knew that any wolf, even a powerful alpha, would be vulnerable in such extreme conditions. Her thoughts, unbidden, drifted to him, an involuntary pang of concern piercing through her ingrained caution. Was he safe? Was his pack sheltered? The mate bond, usually a faint hum, now throbbed with a dull ache, a persistent, uncomfortable pressure, a sign of his struggle, of the immense physical exertion he was enduring, perhaps even danger. A new scent, faint but undeniable, carried on a sudden gust of wind that briefly cleared the air. It was his, and something else. The coppery tang of fresh blood, sharp and metallic, mixed with the acrid scent of fear. Not his fear, but a fear emanating from others around him. A profound, chilling dread. It was a crisis. He was in danger, or someone close to him was. The mate bond flared with alarming intensity, a powerful, almost irresistible pull, a primal scream for her help, a desperate, undeniable summons that vibrated through every cell of her being. Lyra's rational mind screamed at her to stay hidden, to let the pack handle their own. This was their territory, their problem. Her safety, her very existence, depended on her remaining unseen. But her instincts, fierce and undeniable, forged by a lifetime of healing, overrode all caution, all logic. He was her mate. He was in trouble. And she, a healer, perhaps the only one capable of truly helping, could not stand by and let him or his kind suffer. The bond demanded action, a profound, selfless impulse she could not deny, a primal force stronger than any fear. She shifted into wolf form, her silver fur offering some protection against the blizzard's fury, her senses sharpening, becoming acutely aware of every detail. She raced through the howling winds and blinding snow, a silver streak against the white, following the escalating scent of distress, guided by the insistent pull of the mate bond, which now pulsed like a frantic beacon. It led her to a narrow, snow-choked ravine, where the wind howled with terrifying ferocity, ripping through the trees with a banshee's shriek. And there they were, a small patrol from the Obsidian Claw Pack, including the Alpha, huddled together, their powerful bodies battered by the storm, coated in ice and snow. One of them, a young female, lay trapped beneath a massive fallen tree, her leg pinned at an unnatural angle, twisted and broken, a crimson stain spreading rapidly across the pristine snow, stark against the white. Her whimpers were faint, almost lost in the shriek of the wind, sounds of profound pain and desperate fear. The Alpha and his two betas were frantically trying to move the enormous tree, their powerful muscles straining, their efforts futile against the overwhelming weight. They were exhausted, their fur matted with ice and snow, their faces etched with grim despair, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. The Alpha, his dark fur bristling with anxiety and profound frustration, roared, a desperate sound that tore at Lyra's heart, a raw cry of helplessness. "It's too heavy. We can't move it. Her leg she'll freeze to death before we can get her out. We're losing her." Lyra didn't hesitate. She plunged down the ravine, a silver streak against the white, her heart set on her purpose. The Obsidian Claw wolves, startled by her sudden appearance, immediately tensed, their snarls low and guttural, their eyes narrowing with suspicion and hostility. They were ready to attack, to defend their fallen comrade from the rogue, their instincts overriding their surprise. The Alpha, his head snapping up, his piercing eyes locking onto her, gasped. "You!" he snarled, a mixture of shock and profound recognition in his voice, his gaze burning with an intensity that pulled at Lyra's soul. "The Senti, it's you, my healer." His powerful body, though exhausted, seemed to vibrate with a renewed sense of hope. Lyra ignored their threats, her focus solely on the injured she-wolf. She knelt, her movements quick and decisive, her gaze fixed on the mangled leg. The injury was severe, compounded by the rapidly dropping temperatures, and the young wolf's life force was fading. The young wolf whimpered, her eyes wide with pain and fear, her breath shallow. "Get back!" One of the betas, a large, aggressive male named Rune, growled, stepping forward, his fangs bared, his body tense with protective fury. "This is a rogue. We don't need her interference. She could be a threat." "Stand down, Rune," the alpha roared, his voice cutting through the blizzard's howl, his authority absolute and unyielding. Rune, though clearly seething with suspicion, immediately fell silent, his body slumping in grudging submission. The alpha turned back to Lyra, his stare intense, a silent plea in his dark eyes, a desperate hope flickering in their depths. "She's the one. The healer. Let her work." Lyra didn't waste words. She turned to the alpha, her voice clear and strong despite the howling wind, her focus absolute. "We need to lift the tree. I can set the bone, but I need you to create a space. Can you do it? Can you give me the opening I need?" The alpha, still staring at her with a mixture of awe and disbelief, a profound realization dawning in his eyes, nodded, his resolve hardening. "Yes. Get ready. Rune, Kale, help me. Push with everything you have. Her life depends on it." Together, the three powerful wolves, spurred on by a desperate hope and their alpha's unwavering command, strained against the immense weight of the fallen tree. Their muscles bulged, ropes of sinew and muscle beneath their fur, their paws dug into the snow, creating deep furrows, and with a guttural roar of combined effort, they managed to shift the tree, creating a small, agonizing gap, just enough for Lyra to work, a precarious opening that threatened to close at any moment. Lyra wasted no time. She plunged her hands into the freezing snow, feeling for the mangled leg, her fingers surprisingly steady despite the cold and the urgency. The touch was agonizing for the injured wolf, who whimpered loudly, her body tensing, but Lyra's grip was firm, her touch surprisingly gentle despite the urgency. Her focus absolute. She felt the broken bone, the torn ligaments, the shredded muscle, and channeled her healing gift, letting the warmth surge from her palms into the shattered limb. A radiant golden light that glowed faintly even through the blizzard's fury. The blizzard raged around them, a furious, chaotic dance of snow and wind, but in that small, desperate space, a silent miracle was unfolding Kryn. A testament to Lyra's profound power. The young she-wolf's whimpers softened to soft moans, then sighs of relief, as the pain receded, replaced by a strange warmth. The bone knitted, the torn flesh rapidly healing under Ba. Lyra's potent touch, the wound slowly closing, leaving behind only a faint scar. It was a draining effort, her own energy flowing into the injured wolf, leaving her weak and lightheaded, her body trembling with exhaustion, but she persisted, pushing past the pain, past the dizziness, until the injury, though still swollen and bruised, was no longer life-threatening. The healing was complete, a testament to Lyra's unparalleled gift, a gift that had defied centuries of prejudice and fear. She pulled her hands away, trembling with exhaustion, her skin clammy with sweat despite the bitter cold, her vision blurring at the edges. The young wolf, still dazed, managed a weak lick to Lyra's hand, a gesture of profound gratitude. her eyes filled with a speechless awe. The obsidian claw wolves, who had watched the impossible healing with stunned awe, now regarded Lyra with a mixture of reverence and lingering suspicion. The sheer power she wielded, the miracle she had just performed, was undeniable, yet the ingrained fear of rogues, of the unknown, still held a subtle grip. The Alpha, however, his eyes dark and intense, moved towards her, his gaze unwavering, fixed solely on her. He shifted into his human form, a powerful, imposing man, his dark hair matted with snow, his face etched with concern, his breath misting in the cold air. His gaze, however, was fixed solely on her, a profound question in their depths. "You," he said again, his voice raw with emotion, thick with the weight of unanswered questions. He reached out a hand, his touch tentative, almost reverent, as he gently brushed a stray snowflake from her hair, his fingers lingering, as if confirming her reality. "You saved her. You saved me. Who are you?" His eyes, dark as midnight, held a profound question, a yearning for answers that Lyra now knew she could no longer deny, a quiet plea that resonated deep within her soul. The secret she had clung to for so long, the fragile peace she had fought to protect, was irrevocably shattered, and a new, terrifying, yet exhilarating chapter was about to begin. The bond, now a roaring inferno, demanded full acknowledgement, a complete and utter surrender to their shared destiny. She had saved the Alpha's life, not once, but twice. Now, she had to face the terrifying truth of who she was, and the profound implications of her true identity for their undeniable connection. The moment of truth had arrived, chilling and exhilarating in equal measure. The Alpha's touch, gentle yet possessive, sent a shiver through Lyra, a complex mixture of apprehension and profound yearning. His dark eyes, now filled with a vulnerability she hadn't seen before, held hers captive, drawing her into their depths. The other obsidian claw wolves, still in their human forms, watched them with a mixture of awe, lingering suspicion, and a palpable tension. The air, thick with the scent of pine, snow, and the fading coppery tang of blood, crackled with unspoken questions, with the weight of an impending revelation. The blizzard, as if in deference to the moment, had begun to subside, the wind's howl softening to a mournful whisper. "Who are you?" he repeated, his voice low, a desperate plea for answers that resonated with a raw, undeniable need. He reached out, his powerful hand cupping her cheek, his thumb gently tracing the curve of her jaw, a gesture of unexpected tenderness. The touch ignited a fire within her, a blazing recognition that vibrated through every cell of her being, a profound sense of coming home. The mate bond, previously a thrum, now roared to life, a roaring crescendo of connection, demanding full acknowledgement, an undeniable pull that resonated with every beat of her heart. Lyra took a shaky breath, her gaze meeting his without flinching, a newfound strength settling within her. The moment of truth had arrived. There was no more hiding, no more running, no more pretending. The storm, both outside and within her, had brought her to this precipice, and she would meet it with unwavering resolve. "My name is Lyra," she said, her voice surprisingly steady, despite the tremor in her heart, a quiet assertion of her identity. "I am a rogue." A collective gasp ripped through the surrounding wolves, a ripple of shock and disbelief spreading through their ranks. Rune, the aggressive beta, snarled, taking a furious step forward, his eyes blazing with anger and suspicion. "A rogue! Alpha! She's an outcast! A danger to the pack! She must be eliminated. This is an insult to our laws, to our ancestors. His voice, laced with venom, reverberated through the clearing, echoing the deep-seated prejudices that had defined pack society for centuries. The Alpha, however, did not flinch. His gaze remained locked on Lyra, his eyes searching hers, delving into the depths of her soul, seeking a truth beyond labels. He saw the truth in her eyes, the honesty, the profound exhaustion of a lifetime spent in hiding, the quiet courage that shone through her weary facade. He also felt the undeniable pull of the might bond, a connection that spoke louder than any accusation, a primal truth that superseded all pack laws. He saw not a threat, but the woman who had saved his life, and now, the life of one of his pack. He saw his destiny. "Silence, Rune!" the Alpha roared, his voice cutting through the tension, his authority absolute and unyielding. Rune, though clearly seething with barely contained fury, immediately fell silent, bowing his head in submission, his powerful body tensing with suppressed rage. The Alpha turned back to Lyra, his hand still cupping her cheek, his touch surprisingly gentle, almost reverent. "A rogue?" he murmured, a hint of incredulity in his voice, his brow furrowed in thought. "But you're healing your power. It's unlike anything I've ever witnessed. It's divine. My lineage is old," Lyra explained, her voice gaining a quiet strength, a calm resignation to her fate. "And cursed. By some. My ancestors were healers, their gifts passed down through generations. A sacred trust. But over time, as packs grew larger and more structured, these gifts became feared, seen as witchcraft, as a threat to the established order, to the purity of bloodlines. Our family was branded as unstable, unpredictable. Our abilities were deemed too wild, too dangerous to coexist with rigid pack laws. So we were cast out, forced to wander, to live in the shadows, always hiding, always alone." She lowered her gaze, a profound sadness in her voice, a whisper of centuries of persecution. "If your pack knows I am a rogue, truly knows, they will demand my death, or my subjugation. It is your law. It is the law of almost every pack." The Alpha's thumb stroked her cheekbone, his touch a silent comfort, a powerful affirmation. "My name is Thorn," he said, his voice deep and resonant, holding a newfound tenderness. "Alpha Thorn of the Obsidian Claw Pack, and I will not allow harm to come to the woman who saved my life and the life of my beta. Regardless of her past, regardless of her lineage, she is mine to protect." His words were a fierce promise, a declaration of intent that sent a wave of warmth and overwhelming relief through Lyra's heart. It was a shield, strong and unbreakable. Rune, however, was not convinced. He stepped forward again, his eyes narrowed, his voice laced with suspicion, his body radiating disapproval. "Alpha Thorn," he began again, his tone respectful yet unyielding. "With all due respect, a rogue is a rogue. They are unpredictable, dangerous. Their loyalties are fleeting. Her presence here threatens the very safety and integrity of our pack. This healing, it could be a trick, a way to gain our trust, a sorcery designed to weaken us from within." He looked at the other wolves, seeking their silent agreement, and many shifted uneasily, their suspicions still palpable. Thorn turned on Rune, his gaze blazing with a cold fury that silenced the beta instantly, freezing him in place. "Are you questioning my judgment, Rune?" he demanded, his voice a low growl, radiating an unquestionable authority that reverberated through the clearing, making the very air vibrate. She healed me when I was dying, when all hope was lost. She healed Anya when she was trapped and freezing, on the brink of death. These are not the actions of an enemy. This is a gift, a rare and precious gift given freely and without expectation. His gaze swept over his pack, challenging them to dispute his words, to question his absolute authority. No one dared. The power of his alpha command was undeniable. He turned back to Lyra, his eyes softening, a profound yearning in their depths, a silent plea for confirmation. The scent that has haunted me, Lyra, it's more than just the scent of my savior. It's the scent of my mate. The bond, it's undeniable. It sings in my soul. His voice was a whispered confession, an admission of his deepest truth, a raw vulnerability that melted Lyra's last remaining defenses. Is it true, Lyra? Are you my mate? The one fate chose for me? Lyra felt her carefully constructed walls crumble completely, dissolving into dust. Her breath hitched, and tears, hot and undeniable, streamed down her face, tears of release, of overwhelming emotion. She looked into his dark, searching eyes, seeing not just the alpha, the powerful leader, but the man, the wolf, who had been chosen for her, the other half of her soul, her destiny made manifest. The bond roared in affirmation, a triumphant crescendo, pulling them together with an irresistible force, a primal connection that transcended all logic, all fear. Yes, she whispered, her voice barely audible, thick with emotion, yet ringing with absolute truth. Yes, Thorn, you are my mate. The words hung in the air, a profound declaration that echoed through the snow-laden ravine, sealing their fate. Thorn's eyes widened in recognition, in profound relief, in soaring joy. A raw, untamed joy flared in their depths, illuminating his rugged features. He pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her, holding her tightly against his powerful chest, as if he could never let her go, as if holding her would tether him to reality itself. The warmth of his embrace enveloped her, a sanctuary she had longed for her entire life, a place where she finally felt safe, truly safe, for the very first time. My mate, he murmured against her hair, his voice rough with emotion, thick with disbelief and profound gratitude. All this time you were here, and I was searching for a ghost, when my other half was breathing the same air. The other wolves, initially stunned into silence by the alpha's declaration, slowly began to grasp the profound implication of his words. A rogue. And their Luna. The combination was unprecedented, shocking, a paradigm shift in their understanding of pack hierarchy. Rune, though still wary, felt the undeniable power of the mate bond radiating from his alpha, a silent testament to the truth of their connection, a force he could not deny, however much his ingrained prejudices fought against it. Suspicion battled with loyalty, tradition clashed with instinct, but the might bond was an undeniable force of nature. Thorn pulled back slightly, his hands still cupping her face, his gaze intense, a hint of question lingering in his dark eyes. Why did you hide, Lyra? Why did you run from me, from our bond? Lyra met his gaze, her voice laced with the pain of her past, the burden of generations of persecution. My people, we are feared, hunted. My family was torn apart because of our gift, because of what we are. I was taught to hide, to remain unseen, to become invisible for survival. The pack's their laws are harsh, their judgment swift. I didn't know if I could trust you. If you, an alpha, a leader of a pack that condemns rogues, would accept a rogue as your mate, As your Luna, I thought it would destroy you. Destroy your pack. The last word, Luna, felt strange on her tongue, heavy with implications, with the weight of a responsibility she had never imagined. Thorn's eyes softened further, filled with profound understanding, his expression gentle. He gently wiped away her tears with his thumb, his touch soothing. My pack will learn to accept you, Lyra. They will see your strength, your courage, your gift. They will see what I see. They will see the truth. His gaze swept over his pack, a silent command in his eyes, a powerful assertion of his will. She is Lyra, my mate, your Luna. She saved my life. She saved Anya's life. She is a gift to us all. Any challenge to her will be considered a challenge to me. Do you understand? His voice was low, dangerous, a clear warning. The pack members, though still processing the unprecedented revelation, immediately bowed their heads in submission, murmuring their assent, their ingrained loyalty overriding their initial shock. Rune, after a moment of internal struggle, grudgingly bowed, his suspicion tempered by his alpha's absolute command and the undeniable evidence of Lyra's healing power. He might not understand it, but he respected his alpha's will. Thorn turned back to Lyra, a genuine smile, warm and tender, spreading across his face, a smile that transformed his rugged features, softening the fierce lines of command. "Come," he said, his voice filled with a profound hope, with a promise of a new beginning. "The storm is still raging, but we are safe now. Let's go home. To our home, together. As mates, as Alpha and Luna." He led her out of the ravine, his arm wrapped securely around her, his powerful presence a comforting shield against the biting wind and the lingering shadows of her past. Lyra walked beside him, her heart overflowing with a mixture of disbelief and soaring joy, the weight of a lifetime of fear lifting from her shoulders. She had saved the Alpha's life, not once, but twice. She had revealed her deepest secret, a truth that could have destroyed her. Instead, it had led her to her mate, to a love she had never dared to dream of, and to a future she now knew, with absolute certainty, would be built on the strength of their undeniable bond. The fragile peace she had fought to protect was indeed shattered, but in its place, a new, stronger peace, one built on truth and love, had begun to bloom, vibrant and full of promise. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, Lyra felt she was walking towards, not away from, her destiny. The journey back to the Obsidian Claw Pack's main den was a procession filled with a unique blend of triumph and underlying tension. Thorn walked beside Lyra, his hand never leaving hers, his powerful presence a constant reassurance, a silent declaration of ownership and protection. He spoke to her in soft murmurs, recounting his desperate search, the profound frustration that had plagued him for weeks, and the unwavering conviction that his healer, his mate, was real and out there, somewhere. Lyra listened, her heart aching with a mixture of guilt for her prolonged deception and overwhelming gratitude for his unwavering belief, his undeniable faith in her. She squeezed his hand in return, a silent promise of her own. As they neared the pack's main den, the scent of many wolves grew stronger, the familiar musk of the Obsidian Claw Pack filling the air, mingling with the lingering scent of pine and snow. Lyra felt a surge of apprehension, a cold knot in her stomach. Thorn had declared her his mate, his Luna, before a handful of betas and scouts. But acceptance from the entire pack, particularly a pack renowned for its strict traditions, its deep-seated distrust of rogues, and its unwavering adherence to ancient laws, would not be easily won. She could feel the lingering suspicion radiating from Rune, a cold undercurrent beneath his forced obedience, a palpable wall of resistance. The pack had gathered in the main clearing, drawn by the return of their alpha and the whispers that had undoubtedly preceded their arrival. Their expressions ranged from profound relief at Thorn's safe return to open curiosity, suspicion, and even outright hostility directed at Lyra. They shifted between human and wolf forms, a sea of dark fur and tense bodies. Their eyes narrowed, assessing the strange silver-gray wolf standing beside their formidable alpha. Thorn stepped forward, his arm still wrapped around Lyra's waist, his grip firm and possessive, presenting her to his gathered pack. His posture radiated immense power, his face a mask of resolute authority. "Obsidian Claw," Thorn's voice boomed, radiating an undeniable authority that silenced the murmurs and drew every eye to them, fixing their gaze on the unprecedented sight. "I have returned, and I bring with me the one who saved my life, who pulled me back from the brink of death, and the one who saved Anya, who would have perished in the storm without her intervention." He paused, his gaze sweeping over his pack, challenging them to defy him, his eyes burning with an unshakable conviction. "This is Lyra. She is my mate. She is your Luna." A collective gasp ripped through the pack, a wave of shock and disbelief. Murmurs, louder this time, broke out, a tumultuous mix of incredulity and outrage. A rogue Luna? It was unheard of, unprecedented, an affront to their very foundations, to centuries of tradition. The whispers grew louder, more agitated. "A rogue? Impossible! She cannot be our Luna. This defies everything." Rune, unable to contain his simmering anger any longer, stepped forward, his face a mask of barely suppressed fury, his powerful body radiating defiance. "Alpha Thorn," he began, his voice strained, respectful yet challenging. "With all due respect, this is highly irregular, unacceptable. A rogue a Luna? Our laws, they forbid it. They are sacred. Rogues are outcasts, to be driven away, to be eliminated, not welcomed into the heart of the pack, not elevated to the position of Luna. She cannot be trusted. Her very presence here threatens the purity of our bloodlines, the strength of our traditions." His words resonated with a significant portion of the pack, who nodded their agreement, their eyes narrowed with suspicion and open hostility, their faces etched with disapproval. Thorn's eyes blazed with a fierce warning, his alpha command radiating outwards, a palpable force that made the air hum. "Our laws, Rune," Thorn retorted, his voice low and dangerous, "also state that an alpha's mate is sacrosanct. The bond is undeniable. And Lyra is my mate. The bond is a truth that supersedes any maw. Antiquated law." He turned to Lyra, his gaze softening, offering her an unspoken reassurance, a silent promise of unwavering support. "She is a healer, a gift to our pack, a power we have never known. She has proven her loyalty and her courage under fire. She faced down Blackwood with me when our very future was threatened. She saved Anya, who would have perished in the storm without her intervention, and now stands here, alive and well, because of Lyra's gift." He gestured towards Anya, who now stood gingerly on her still healing leg. Her eyes filled with profound gratitude as she looked at Lyra, a silent testament to her savior's power. Anya, though still recovering, stepped forward, her voice clear and strong, cutting through the murmurs of dissent. "It's true. She saved me. My leg was shattered, my life fading. I felt the warmth, the life surge back into me. It was a miracle. She is a miracle, and she is kind. She asks for nothing in return. Her unwavering testimony, coming from a respected beta, seemed to quell some of the immediate dissent, but the suspicion lingered, a cold undercurrent in many eyes. The weight of centuries of ingrained prejudice. Thorn continued, his voice firm and unwavering, a powerful declaration that left no room for doubt. Lyra has lived a life of fear, hunted for a gift she cannot control, for a lineage that branded her outcast. But here, with the obsidian claw, she will find safety. She will find acceptance. She will find a home. And those who cannot accept my mate, who cannot see the truth of her value, will find themselves unwelcome in my pack. His words were a clear challenge, a direct order that allowed no room for defiance, a stark warning of the consequences of disloyalty. Lyra felt a surge of unexpected courage, a wave of defiance rising within her. She knew she had to speak, to bridge the chasm of distrust, to face the skepticism, head on. She stepped forward, out from under Thorn's protective arm, facing the wary faces of the obsidian claw pack, her gaze steady, her posture proud despite her trembling heart. "I understand your skepticism," Lyra began, her voice soft but clear, carrying through the quiet clearing, reaching every ear. "My kind has long been viewed with suspicion, and for good reason perhaps, given the actions of some who misused their gifts. But I ask you to judge me not by the label of rogue, but by my actions, by my heart. I risked my life to save your Alpha. I risked my life to save Anya. I carry a gift, yes, a powerful one, but it is a gift I intend to use for the good of this pack, to heal, to protect, to build, not to destroy." She paused, her gaze sweeping over the faces before her, meeting each suspicious eye with an honest, unwavering intensity, seeking a glimmer of understanding. "I ask for your trust, not simply because I am Thorn's mate, but because I am Lyra. And I am here to stay, to serve, to protect." A profound silence descended upon the pack. Her words, delivered with such quiet sincerity, with such raw honesty, resonated with some, touching their hearts, while others still harbored deep-seated prejudice, their faces unyielding. Thorn, however, watched her with, quote, undisguised pride, a silent testament to his unwavering faith in her, his love shining in his dark eyes. Suddenly, a small, tentative voice broke the tense silence. It was a young pup, no older than 5 or 6, who had been hiding behind B. His mother's leg, his innocent eyes wide with curiosity. He bravely stepped forward, staring up at Lyra with an awe-filled gaze. "Are you really a magic healer, Luna Lyra?" he asked, his voice filled with childlike wonder, completely unburdened by prejudice. Lyra smiled, a genuine, warm smile that melted some of the tension in the air, a ray of light in the tense atmosphere. She knelt down to his level, her expression soft. "I have a gift, little one," she said gently, her voice soothing, "and I promise to use it to keep you and your family safe, to help all of you heal when you are hurt." The pup giggled, his innocence a surprising balm to the tense atmosphere, a stark contrast to the adult skepticism. His mother, a stern-faced she-wolf, hesitated, her gaze softening slightly, then offered Lyra a small, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement, a tiny crack in the wall of resistance. It was a small victory, but a significant one, a testament to the power of innocence and kindness. Over the next few weeks, Lyra slowly, painstakingly, began to earn the pack's trust. She used her healing gift wisely and sparingly, tending to minor injuries from training, soothing restless pups, and offering comfort to the elderly and the ailing. She expanded the rudimentary pack dispensary, introducing new herbal remedies she had learned in her solitary travels. She helped cook with meals, her culinary skills a pleasant surprise, bringing new flavors and warmth to the pack's daily life. She learned the names of every wolf, listened to their concerns, and offered quiet, thoughtful advice, never overstepping her boundaries, but always present and supportive. She demonstrated an unwavering loyalty to Thorn, supporting his decisions, offering him insights he hadn't considered, becoming his quiet confidant and strategic partner. She spent hours with Anya, listening to her stories, sharing her own, forging a deep friendship with the young beta whose life she had saved. Anya became her staunch defender, her unwavering advocate within the pack, tirelessly countering Rune's lingering suspicions with undeniable evidence of Lyra's kindness, integrity, and profound benefit to the pack. Anya often brought her small gifts, wildflowers, smooth river stones, a silent language of affection and gratitude. Thorn, meanwhile, took every opportunity to reinforce Lyra's position. He spoke of her courage, her wisdom, her selfless actions, elevating her in the eyes of his pack. He made it clear, through both word and deed, that Lyra was not merely his mate, but an essential part of the Obsidian Claw Pack, their Luna, and a powerful asset they could not afford to dismiss or disrespect. He actively included her in pack decisions, valuing her unique perspective, allowing her voice to be heard in the council, showcasing her intelligence and insight to all. Rune, though still somewhat reserved, found his prejudices slowly eroding in the face of Lyra's consistent kindness, her quiet strength, and her undeniable contributions. He witnessed her selflessness, her quiet dignity, and the profound love and respect Thorn held for her. He saw how the pack was thriving under her gentle influence, how the young ones looked up to her with innocent adoration, how their morale had visibly improved. His respect for her, albeit grudging at first, began to grow, transforming into something akin to reluctant admiration. He even found himself seeking her out for advice on minor injuries, a silent acknowledgement of her skill. One crisp evening, as the first stars began to speckle the twilight sky, painting the vast expanse with shimmering light, Lyra sat by the roaring fire in the main den, surrounded by the pack. The sounds of laughter and storytelling filled the air, a warmth she had only dreamed of in her solitary, fearful life. Thorn sat beside her, his arm casually draped around her shoulders, his powerful presence a comforting weight, a silent anchor in her new world. The scent of him, pine and earth and pure alpha, enveloped her, a scent of home. Rune approached them, his expression unreadable, a slight awkwardness in his posture. Lyra tensed slightly, bracing herself for another confrontation, an ingrained reaction. But Rune merely bowed his head, a deeper gesture of deference than she had seen from him before. "Luna Lyra," he said, his voice gruff, but holding a clear hint of genuine respect. A difficult admission for him. I was wrong about you. You are indeed a valuable member of this pack. We are fortunate to have you. Forgive my skepticism." Lyra felt a profound surge of emotion, a wave of relief and quiet triumph. It was a small victory, yes, but it meant everything. It was proof that change was possible, that prejudices could be overcome. She offered him a soft, genuine smile, her eyes shining with warmth. "Thank you, Rune. I am honored to be here, and to earn your trust." Thorn squeezed her shoulder, his eyes shining with pride, a silent acknowledgement of her success. The acceptance, earned through courage and kindness, through unwavering patience and selfless action, was finally hers. She had saved the Alpha's life, and in doing so, She had found her true place, not just as his mate, but as the beloved Luna of the Obsidian Claw Pack. The fragile peace she had fought to protect, the desperate anonymity she had once craved, was not destroyed. It had simply evolved, transformed into a far richer, far more meaningful existence, one filled with love, belonging, and the quiet promise of a future she now dared to build, brick by painful brick, with Thorn and their port pack. With Lyra's acceptance by the Obsidian Claw Pack steadily growing, thanks to her consistent kindness, undeniable contributions, and Thorn's unwavering support, a new chapter began to unfold for her and Thorn, one of profound change and burgeoning hope. The initial apprehension from some of the older, more traditional wolves slowly dissipated, replaced by a cautious respect, then genuine admiration. Lyra, now the pack's beloved Luna, actively sought to understand the intricacies of pack life, its ancient traditions, its daily challenges, its unspoken rules. She spent hours speaking with the elders, listening intently to their stories, learning their histories, absorbing their wisdom, showing a deference that won them over. She participated in training exercises, surprising many with her innate agility, quick wit, and surprising resilience, proving that her strength extended beyond her healing gift. Thorn, deeply proud of his mate, actively championed her integration, ensuring her voice was heard in all pack matters, seeking her counsel on every important decision. He relied on her quiet insights, her uncanny ability to perceive nuances that others missed, her intuitive understanding of motivations and consequences, her unique perspective, shaped by a life lived outside rigid pack structures, often provided invaluable solutions to complex problems, bringing a fresh, unburdened clarity to their ancient ways. Their bond, once a hidden secret, now radiated openly, a palpable force that bound them together and strengthened the pack, radiating outwards, creating a powerful, harmonious energy. One crisp morning, as spring began to truly awaken the forest, painting the landscape with vibrant greens and delicate blossoms, Thorn approached Lyra with a thoughtful expression. They were sitting by the river, watching the last remnants of ice melt and tiny silver fish dart through the clear, rushing water. The air was fresh, carrying the scent of new growth in wet earth. "Lyra," he began, his voice soft, contemplative, "I've been thinking deeply about your lineage, about your healing gift. It's truly extraordinary, a power I've never believed possible until I saw it with my own eyes. We have seen its potency firsthand, its ability to mend what seemed irrevocably broken. But you spoke of your family being outcast, of generations of fear and persecution. Do you know why, in detail, beyond just fear of the unknown?" Lyra sighed, a shadow crossing her face, a flicker of ancient pain in her eyes. She traced patterns on the damp earth with her finger. "The stories are old, Thorn. Whispers from my grandmother, from generations before her. Our ancestors were said to possess a unique connection to the spiritual realm, a deeper understanding of the earth's energies. They had a power to not only heal bodies, but to soothe restless spirits, to calm frayed nerves, even sometimes to glimpse fragments of the future, to interpret omens. They were guides, spiritual anchors for early wolf communities." She paused, gathering her thoughts, choosing her words carefully. But over time, as packs grew larger, more structured, more focused on physical dominance and rigid territorial control, these gifts became feared. They were seen as deviations, as an unpredictable magic, a threat to the established order that valued brute strength and clear hierarchies. Our family was branded as unstable, unpredictable, unnatural. Our abilities were deemed too wild, too dangerous to coexist with the increasingly rigid pack laws. They were accused of witchcraft, of meddling with forces beyond understanding, of even corrupting the purity of bloodlines by mingling with spirits. So, we were cast out, forced to wander, to live in the shadows, always hiding, always alone. My grandmother always said it was a lie, a means for jealous or fearful alphas to consolidate power, to eliminate what they couldn't control, or understand, to suppress anything that challenged their singular authority. Thorn listened intently, his brow furrowed in thought, his gaze distant, processing the weight of her words. That's a brutal history, Lyra. To be judged and condemned for a gift that clearly only brings good. To be ostracized for your very essence. It goes against the very essence of what an alpha should protect: the strength of his pack, the unique talents of its members, the well-being of all wolves, no matter how different. To extinguish such a light, it's a profound loss, a self-inflicted wound for wolfkind. His gaze grew distant, thoughtful, a profound idea beginning to take root. Perhaps it's time to challenge those old prejudices, to show the world that such gifts are not a weakness, not a corruption, but a profound strength. A strength that could benefit all of wolfkind, not just a single pack. A strength that could unify us. Lyra looked at him, her heart swelling with a mixture of overwhelming hope and deep apprehension. The idea was audacious, terrifying in its scope. What are you suggesting, Thorn? This goes beyond our pack, beyond even this territory. This is a challenge to centuries of deeply ingrained tradition, to the very fabric of wolf society. I suggest, Thorn said, turning his piercing gaze back to her, his dark eyes burning with conviction, that the Obsidian Claw Pack, under our leadership, could become a beacon for change, a place where gifts like yours are not feared, but embraced, celebrated even. A place where wolves are judged not by their lineage or their perceived rogue status, but by their character, their loyalty, their contributions, their inherent value. A place where wolfkind can evolve beyond its self-imposed limitations. He squeezed her hand, his grip firm, a silent promise of unwavering support. It won't be easy, Lyra. There will be resistance, fierce opposition from other, more conservative packs. They will accuse us of heresy, of weakness, of inviting chaos. But if any pack can do it, it's ours. We are strong, we have unity, and you are our strength, Lyra. You are the embodiment of the very change we seek. Lyra's eyes welled up, tears blurring her vision. It was an audacious vision, a dream that resonated with the deepest longings of her heart, a calling she had never dared to voice aloud. To heal not just individuals, but the fractured spirit of wolfkind, to break down the walls of prejudice and fear that had plagued her lineage for generations, to create a world where no wolf had to hide their true self. It's a beautiful dream, Thorn, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. But it will be dangerous. Other alphas will see it as a direct challenge to their authority, a profound threat to their entrenched traditions, to the very foundation of their power. Let them, Thorn countered, his voice firm, unwavering, his jaw set in a determined line. Truth and progress often begin with a challenge. We will start by proving it here, within our own borders. We will continue to build our pack, not just in numbers, but in wisdom, compassion, and acceptance. We will demonstrate the strength that comes from embracing all forms of power, all kinds of gifts. And then, when we are ready, When our roots are deep, we will reach out. We will show them a better way." He pulled her closer, wrapping his arm around her, holding her securely against his side. "This is our path, Luna. Our shared destiny." The first tangible step in Thorn and Lyra's audacious vision was the establishment of a dedicated healing center within the Obsidian Claw territory. It began modestly, a small, well-insulated den carved into the side of a sun-warmed hill where Lyra could tend to the injured and sick without draining her energy from constant travel, a quiet sanctuary of Tad restoration. She meticulously designed the space, ensuring it was well ventilated, with a small flowing spring nearby for fresh water, and shelves built into the rock for her growing collection of herbs. She expanded her knowledge tirelessly, poring over ancient texts she had painstakingly acquired during her years as a rogue, studying forgotten remedies, and combining them with her unique spiritual gift, finding new ways to amplify her inherent power. Wolves from neighboring territories, hearing whispers of the extraordinary healer in the Obsidian Claw Pack, cautiously began to seek her out. They came from various packs: the wary Timberwolf clan, the proud Mountain Ridge Pack, even a few desperate individuals from the distant Sunstone tribe, their initial skepticism slowly giving way to awe as they witnessed her miraculous healing abilities. Lyra treated everyone who came, regardless of their pack affiliation, her compassion extending beyond the rigid boundaries of traditional loyalties. She never asked for payment, only acceptance. Her touch, infused with a gentle golden light, could knit shattered bones, draw out deep infections, and soothe fevered brows with astonishing speed, defying all conventional understanding of medicine. This act of selfless healing slowly but irrevocably began to erode the ingrained prejudices against rogues. Other alphas, though initially wary, suspicious of Thorn's motives, could not deny the undeniable evidence of wolves returning to their packs, whole and healthy, their eyes shining with gratitude, after being treated by Lyra. The healing center became a place of peace, a neutral ground where wolves from different territories could meet and witness the power of a gift that transcended ancient feuds, slowly fostering a sense of shared humanity among them. It became a silent testament to Thorn and Lyra's vision, a living example of a better way. Thorn, meanwhile, began to strategically forge alliances with more progressive alphas in other regions. He understood that to challenge centuries of tradition, he needed a strong, unified front. He hosted informal gatherings, inviting alphas and their trusted betas to his territory, not for aggressive shows of strength, but for open dialogue. He spoke of his vision for a more inclusive future, emphasizing the strength that came from unity rather than division, from shared purpose rather than isolated power. He spoke of Lyra not just as his mate, but as a living testament to the untapped potential that existed beyond the rigid definitions of pack law, a symbol of hope and evolution for wolfkind. He actively invited other alphas to witness Lyra's healing firsthand, allowing them to see for themselves the profound, undeniable impact she had on those she touched, letting the miracles speak for themselves. One such alpha, a formidable but open-minded leader from the distant Crimson Howl Pack, visited the Obsidian Claw territory. Alpha Gareth, a seasoned warrior with battle-hardened scars to prove it, harbored deep-seated doubts about the concept of a rogue Luna. His pack was known for its strict discipline and rigid traditions. He watched Lyra with a critical, discerning eye as she tended to a badly injured Crimson Howl scout, a young male whose leg had been shattered in a rock slide. Lyra's gentle touch and focused energy worked miracles, his bones visibly knitting, his pain visibly receding. After witnessing the scout's rapid recovery, Gareth approached Lyra, his stern expression slowly softening, a glimmer of awe in his usually unyielding eyes. "Luna Lyra," he said, his voice gruff, yet holding a new reverence. "I have seen much in my lifetime, Lyra, fought in countless battles, witnessed many kinds of power, but never such a gift as yours. My pack, like many, has always been taught to fear rogues, to see them as unpredictable, dangerous anomalies. But you challenge everything we believed. You embody a truth we have long ignored." He looked at Thorn, a newfound respect in his eyes, a silent acknowledgement of his foresight. "You are fortunate, Thorn. This Luna of yours is indeed a rare treasure, a blessing, not a curse." It was a profound statement of acceptance, a significant crack in the rigid wall of tradition, a powerful endorsement that would reverberate through the connected territories. The success of the healing center and the growing alliances brought a new vibrancy to the Obsidian Claw Pack. Their ranks swelled with former rogues who, hearing of Lyra's acceptance, cautiously sought a place among them, yearning for a home where their gifts, however minor, would not be feared. They brought with them diverse skills and experiences, enriching the pack's culture and strengthening its collective knowledge. Lyra interviewed each applicant personally, ensuring their intentions were pure, their hearts aligned with the pack's evolving values. Thorn, in turn, integrated them carefully, ensuring they understood the pack's laws while also subtly reinterpreting those laws to be more inclusive. The pack was no longer just a collection of individuals. It was becoming a thriving community, a beacon of a new way forward for wolfkind. As Lyra's reputation as a compassionate and miraculous healer grew, and Thorn's vision for interpack cooperation began to take root, spreading like wildfire among the more progressive packs, a new, insidious threat began to emerge. This threat did not come from outside enemies or rival territories, but from within the existing power structures, from the very core of wolf society. The more conservative alphas, those who clung fiercely to ancient traditions, to the rigid laws and hierarchies that had governed wolfkind for centuries, viewed Thorn's progressive ideas and Lyra's very existence as a dangerous affront to their absolute authority. They feared the disruption of the established order, the erosion of their power, the unraveling of the strict control they had always wielded. Whispers began to spread, insidious as a venomous serpent. Rumors of a new coalition forming, alphas uniting to restore order, to cleanse the bloodlines of rogue influence, to eradicate what they perceived as a dangerous aberration. They accused Thorn of weakness, of allowing an outcast, a cursed rogue, to corrupt his pack, to dilute the purity of their lineage. They resurrected old prejudices against Lyra's ancestry, twisting her healing gift into a narrative of dark, unpredictable magic, a dangerous curse rather than a blessing, a force that would ultimately destroy all that was sacred. The very peace Lyra and Thorn sought to build, the unity they championed, was being perverted into a justification for war, a rallying cry for those who clung to the old ways. Leading this burgeoning opposition was Alpha Vorlog of the formidable Iron Fang pack. Vorlog was a wolf steeped in tradition, his mind as rigid as his pack's name. He was ruthless, ambitious, and utterly convinced of the superiority of the old ways, seeing Thorn's reforms as a direct challenge to his power and to the natural order of wolf society. He began to actively recruit other like-minded alphas, preying on their fears of the unknown, their ingrained prejudices, and their desire to maintain their absolute control. He painted Lyra as a symbol of chaos, a witch whose very presence threatened the stability of their world. One crisp evening, during a pack council meeting, the air in the main den thick with the scent of burning wood and muted anxiety, Thorn received an ominous message. It was a formal challenge, delivered by a grim-faced, heavily armed emissary from the Iron Fang. The parchment, heavy and sealed with Vorlog's crest, held a stark, chilling demand. Vorlog demanded that Thorn surrender Lyra, condemning her as an unnatural abomination, a corrupting influence, and calling for her immediate execution to purify the Wolflands. Failure to comply, the message warned in no uncertain terms, would result in a swift and brutal declaration of war against the Obsidian Claw Pack and any who dared to support them. It was an ultimatum, a gauntlet thrown down, demanding conformity or annihilation. The den fell silent, the weight of the threat palpable, a suffocating presence. Every wolf's gaze turned to Thorn, then to Lyra, their expressions a mixture of fear, defiance, and unspoken questions. Rune, who had grown to respect Lyra immensely, snarled, his fangs bared, his body tensing with protective fury. "Vorlag, he always was a bully, a dinosaur. We will not surrender our Luna. We will fight to the last breath." His voice, though filled with rage, resonated with the fierce loyalty that Lyra had slowly cultivated within him. Dorn's face was grim, a thundercloud of suppressed fury, his eyes blazing with a cold, dangerous light. He looked at Lyra, his gaze unwavering, a silent promise of protection passing between them. "They want to destroy what we are building, Lyra," he rumbled, his voice low and dangerous. "They fear change. They fear your power, your light, because they cannot control it. But we will not yield. We will fight for our vision, for our future, for a world where gifts are celebrated, not feared." He squeezed her hand, his touch a powerful affirmation. Lyra's heart pounded, a mixture of cold fear and fierce determination coursing through her veins. The fragile peace she had once sought to protect by hiding her true self was now openly threatened by the very truth of her existence, by the light she now dared to share. But she was no longer alone. She had Thorn, her mate, an unyielding pillar of strength and love. And she had a pack, her family, that, though still learning, was beginning to embrace her, to stand with her. The choice was clear. She would not run. She would stand and fight, not just for her own life, but for the future of their kind, for the right to a world where wolves could live without the shadow of ancient, baseless prejudices. The battle lines were drawn, and she would stand firm. The threat from Vorlog and the Iron Fang pack cast a long, ominous shadow over the Obsidian Claw territory, stretching across the once peaceful landscape like a shroud. The gentle, hopeful rhythm Thorn and Lyra had painstakingly established was replaced by a grim readiness, a palpable sense of anticipation for conflict. A constant vigilance permeated every corner of their once tranquil home. Training sessions became more intense, their movements sharper, more precise. Patrols were doubled, their routes extending further into the perimeter, eyes and ears strained for any sign of the encroaching threat. The air crackled with tension, a palpable sense of unease seeping into every tree, every stone, every wolf. Lyra found herself drawing upon reserves of strength she never knew she possessed. Her healing efforts intensified, becoming her singular focus. She worked tirelessly, moving among the pack members, ensuring every wolf was tended to with meticulous care, every minor scrape or bruise healed to maximize their resilience for the coming battle. She pushed her gift to its limits, often feeling the drain of her own energy, but fueled by a fierce determination to protect those who now fought for their shared future. Recognizing the scale of the impending conflict, she also began to train select pack members in basic field first aid, teaching them how to stem bleeding from deep gashes, splint fractures with improvised materials, and identify medicinal herbs in the wild for immediate pain relief. She knew that in a large-scale conflict, she could not be everywhere at once, and the ability of others to provide immediate, life-saving care could mean the difference between survival and death for countless wolves. Her makeshift healing center, once a place of quiet miracles, became a hub of frantic preparation. Thorn, too, was a whirlwind of activity, his presence a powerful anchor amidst the rising panic. He met with his betas daily, sometimes for hours, discussing defensive strategies, evaluating potential weaknesses in their defenses, and assessing the strength of their various allies. His mind worked relentlessly, calculating numbers, anticipating Vorlog's tactics. Alpha Gareth of the Crimson Howl Pack, true to his word and seeing the profound importance of Thorn's vision, pledged his full support, sending a contingent of his most skilled and battle-hardened warriors to reinforce the Obsidian Claw. Their arrival, a disciplined force of powerful wolves, brought a surge of morale to the Obsidian Claw Pack. Other, smaller packs, emboldened by Thorn's vision for a more unified wolf kind, and Lyra's growing reputation as a compassionate healer, also cautiously offered their aid, creating a tentative but growing coalition against Vorlog's aggressive expansionism. The lines were being drawn, not just between packs, but between opposing ideologies, tradition versus progress, fear versus acceptance, isolation versus unity. Despite the escalating tension, the relentless preparations, and the looming threat, Lyra and Thorn found solace in each other's presence. Their bond, now fully acknowledged and deeply cherished, was a source of unwavering strength amidst the brewing storm, a quiet sanctuary in a world of growing chaos. They spent quiet hours together, planning, strategizing, meticulously mapping out defensive positions, but also simply holding each other, drawing comfort from their shared connection, from the silent understanding that passed between them. Thorn would often trace the lines of her face, his gaze filled with a fierce tenderness, a profound love that softened the harsh edges of his war-hardened spirit. Lyra found strength in his steady presence, in the unwavering belief he had in her, in them. "Are you truly ready for this, Lyra?" Thorn asked one evening, his voice low, a hint of deep concern in his tone, as they overlooked the darkening forest. "This will be brutal. Vorlog plays by no rules. He is ruthless, and he will use every dirty trick imaginable to break us. He will not hesitate to strike where we are weakest." Lyra met his gaze, her eyes firm, reflecting the flickering firelight. "I am ready, Thorn," she said, her voice clear and unwavering, infused with a newfound resolve. "I've spent my life running from shadows, hiding from fear, shrinking from my true self. I refuse to run anymore. This is not just a battle for our pack. It's a battle for the very future of wolfkind, for the right to exist, to heal, to embrace our true selves without fear of persecution, for the chance to build a world where a child born with a gift isn't immediately condemned to a life of solitude and fear." She placed her hand over his, her touch firm. "I will stand with you, to the last breath." Her fierce resolve resonated deep within him, strengthening his own determination, reinforcing the powerful conviction that guided his actions. He knew she spoke the truth. This was more than just a territorial dispute. It was a clash of fundamental beliefs, a turning point for their entire species. The intelligence gathered by Thorn's most skilled scouts confirmed their fears. Vorlog was amassing a significant force, larger even than anticipated. He had rallied several other traditionalist packs, preying on their ingrained fear of change and their deep-seated prejudices against anything that challenged their worldview. They were preparing for a full-scale assault, not just to seize territory, but to make a brutal, undeniable example of the Obsidian Claw Pack and their rogue Luna, to crush the burgeoning hope she represented. The day of the impending attack dawned cold and clear, the air still and heavy with anticipation, thick with the scent of fear and defiance. The first rays of dawn painted the forest in muted hues of gray and silver. The Obsidian Claw Pack and their allies gathered in the main clearing, a formidable force of wolves, their human forms exuding grim determination, their faces set with resolve. Weapons were checked, strategies reviewed, final goodbyes exchanged. Thorn stood before them, his powerful presence radiating immense power and an unwavering certainty, his voice strong and unwavering as he addressed his pack, his voice carrying clearly across the silent, expectant assembly. Brothers and sisters of Obsidian Claw, and our brave allies, Thorn began, his voice deep and resonant, holding the power of his alpha command. Today, we face a threat unlike any we have known. Vorlog seeks to crush our spirit, to destroy the peace we have built, to condemn all who do not fit his narrow, outdated vision of what a wolf should be. He seeks to eliminate our Luna, not because she is a threat, but because she is different, because she possesses a gift he cannot comprehend or control. He seeks to snuff out the light she has brought into our lives, and the hope she represents for all wolfkind. He paused, his gaze sweeping over his pack, his eyes burning with unwavering conviction, meeting the gaze of every single wolf. But we are not afraid. We are strong. We are united. We fight for freedom, for acceptance, for a future where all gifts are cherished, not feared. We fight for Lyra, our Luna, who has brought light and healing into our lives, who has shown us a better way. We fight for the right to build a better world for our children, a world where they can grow without the shadow of prejudice and hatred. He looked at Lyra, standing proudly beside him, her gaze firm, her resolve unwavering, a silent testament to their shared purpose. We fight for each other, for family, for justice, for love, for the very soul of wolfkind. A roar of affirmation erupted from the assembled wolves, a powerful, unified sound that vibrated through the forest, shaking the very trees, echoing their unwavering loyalty and fierce determination. Lyra felt a surge of profound emotion, a wave of pride and fierce protective love washing over her. She was no longer alone. She was part of something bigger, something vital, something truly worth fighting for. The fear was still there, a cold knot in her stomach, but it was overshadowed by a fierce, protective love for the wolves who now stood with her, ready to face down the coming storm. As the first distant howls of Vorlog's advancing forces began to carry on the wind, a chilling symphony of impending conflict, growing louder with each passing moment, Lyra turned to Thorn. Their eyes met, a silent promise passing between them, a profound understanding of the battle ahead. They were ready. They would face this together. And no matter the outcome, the fragile peace she had fought to protect, the love she had accidentally found, would be fought for with every fiber of their being, with every ounce of their combined strength. The ultimate test of their bond, and of their vision for a new future for all wolfkind, was about to begin. The clash of ideologies was imminent. The air thrummed with an electric tension, thick with the scent of anticipation, and the raw, earthy musk of assembled wolves. The first faint howls from Vorlog's forces, once distant echoes, now grew into a chilling crescendo, signaling their imminent arrival. The Obsidian Claw Pack, reinforced by the loyal Crimson Howl warriors and smaller allied contingents, stood in formation, a united front of grim determination. Their eyes, a kaleidoscope of gold, amber, and steely gray, reflected the cold dawn light and an unwavering resolve. Thorn, at the forefront, was a towering figure of strength, his dark fur bristling, his eyes burning with a fierce, protective fire. Lyra stood by his side, her human form radiating a quiet strength, her hand gripping his, a silent anchor in the storm. The mate bond surged between them, a powerful current of mutual support, a shared breath of courage. "They come!" A scout's voice rang out, sharp and urgent, cutting through the heavy silence. From the tree line, a tide of dark fur erupted, Vorlog's forces surging forward like a wave of pure aggression. The Iron Fang pack, with their allied traditionalists, moved with a brutal, single-minded focus, their snarls echoing through the forest, a guttural symphony of hatred. At their head was Alpha Vorlog, an immense wolf, even larger than Thorn, his fur the color of rusted iron, his eyes gleaming with cold, ruthless ambition. He moved with a terrifying confidence, convinced of his inevitable victory, intent on crushing all who defied his antiquated worldview. Obsidian Claw. Thorn's roar reverberated through the clearing, a primal call that ignited the spirit of his pack. For freedom, for acceptance, for our future. With an answering roar, the Obsidian Claw and their allies charged, a wave of defiant power crashing against the onslaught of Vorlog's forces. The forest erupted into a whirlwind of snarling bodies, snapping jaws, and rending claws. The sounds of battle were deafening, the sickening thud of impacts, the sharp crack of bone, the desperate cries of wolves fighting for their lives, for their beliefs. Lyra moved with a frantic urgency, a silver blur amidst the chaos, her focus absolute. She was no warrior, but her gift was invaluable. She darted between the combatants, her touch a golden flash against the dark fur of struggling wolves. A Crimson Howl warrior, his leg twisted at an impossible angle, whimpered as Lyra pressed her palms to his wound, the bone knitting with astonishing speed, allowing him to rejoin the fray with a fierce snarl of renewed frad. Determination. An Obsidian Claw she-wolf, her side deeply gouged, gasped as Lyra's touch sealed the torn flesh, stopping the rapid flow of blood. Lyra poured her energy into each wound, her own body growing heavy with exhaustion, her vision blurring at the edges, but she pushed through, fueled by a relentless drive to save as many as she could. The sounds of pain were a constant harrowing symphony in her ears, but each act of healing brought a fleeting moment of fierce triumph. Thorn was a whirlwind of destruction, a force of nature in his own right. His powerful jaws snapped, his claws raked, sending Iron Fang warriors sprawling. He moved with a brutal efficiency, always protecting his flanks, always aware of his pack's vulnerabilities, always driving the fight forward. He met Vorlog's charge head-on, their collision a brutal, earth-shaking impact that sent shockwaves through the battle. The two alphas, titans of their kind, circled each other, their snarls guttural, their eyes burning with a primal rage. "You are a fool, Thorn," Vorlog snarled, lunging with terrifying speed, his fangs aimed for Thorn's throat. "You disgrace our kind with this rogue abomination. She will die, and your pack will fall. Tradition will reign." Thorn parried the attack, his own powerful jaws snapping back, deflecting the blow. "Lyra is no abomination, Vorlog," he roared, his voice filled with righteous fury. "She is the future, a gift, and you, a relic of a dying past, will not touch her. You will not touch my pack." Their battle raged, a fierce dance of power and defiance. They were evenly matched in strength and ferocity, but Thorn fought with a deeper, more profound purpose. He fought for Lyra, for his pack, for a vision of a better world. Vorlog fought for control, for fear, for the preservation of a crumbling, outdated order. As the battle continued, Rune, the beta who had initially been so suspicious of Lyra, found himself fighting fiercely to protect her. He witnessed her tireless efforts, her selflessness, the profound impact she had on the injured, her unwavering courage in the face of brutal combat. He saw her as she truly was, not a threat, but a vital, powerful force for good, a testament to Thorn's belief. He barked commands to other warriors, forming a protective perimeter around Lyra whenever the fighting drew too close, ensuring she could continue her life-saving work. Anya, too, fought with a renewed vigor, her newly healed leg moving with surprising agility, a fierce protectiveness in her eyes as she defended Lyra, a debt repaid in loyalty and blood. The tide of the battle, initially a chaotic, bloody dance, slowly began to turn. Thorn, fueled by an almost supernatural resolve, managed to gain the upper hand against Vorlog. With a mighty roar, he slammed the Iron Fang Alpha to the ground, his jaws closing around Vorlog's thick neck, a clear victory for their righteous cause. "Yield, Vorlog," Thorn snarled, his voice raw with exertion, his eyes blazing with absolute dominance. "Yield, or this is your end. This war is over." Vorlog, battered and defeated, whimpered, a sound of profound humiliation and grudging surrender. He struggled weakly, but Thorn's grip was unyielding. The battle around them slowly quieted, the remaining Iron Fang warriors, witnessing their alpha's defeat, dropping their hostile stances, their snarls dying to whimpers of surrender. Thorn released Vorlog, a subtle shift in his powerful jaws, a clear sign of his victory, a message sent to all. "You are defeated, Vorlog," Thorn declared, his voice carrying clearly across the blood-soaked ground, a powerful echo of his authority. "Your outdated ways will no longer hold sway. We will build a new world, a world of unity, acceptance, and healing." Lyra, exhausted but resolute, stumbled towards Thorn, her body trembling with the profound drain of her healing gift. She saw the exhaustion etched on his face, the cuts and bruises, but also the fierce triumph in his eyes. He turned to her, his gaze filled with profound relief, with overwhelming love. He reached out, pulling her into a tight embrace, holding her close, savoring the warmth and reality of her presence. "We did it, Luna," he whispered against her hair, his voice rough with emotion. "We did it." The aftermath of the battle was a somber tableau of victory and loss. The forest, scarred by the conflict, slowly began to reclaim its peace. Thorn immediately set about establishing the terms of surrender with the defeated packs, his stance firm but just. He imposed no harsh retributions, no demands for territorial expansion. Instead, he offered a choice: integrate with the Obsidian Claw's new vision of unity and acceptance, or remain isolated, stripped of the power to incite further conflict. He offered a path forward, not just a punishment, a testament to his progressive ideals. Many of Vorlog's former allies, disillusioned by his tyrannical leadership and witnessing the resilience and compassion of the Obsidian Claw Pack, chose to join Thorn's growing coalition. They pledged their loyalty not out of fear, but out of a newfound respect for his leadership and Lyra's profound gift. The Iron Fang Pack, weakened and fractured by their defeat, was forced to retreat, their influence severely diminished. Vorlog himself was allowed to leave, stripped of his alpha rank and territory, a stark warning against unchecked aggression and outdated prejudice. Lyra, though physically drained, tirelessly worked to heal the wounded from both sides of the conflict. Her compassion knew no bounds, extending even to the defeated Iron Fang warriors, much to the surprise of many. This act of selfless healing, a silent testament to her unwavering principles, earned her profound respect and admiration, even from those who had fought against her. It was a powerful statement that transcended the animosity of battle, showcasing the true essence of her gift, not just to mend flesh, but to bridge divides, to heal the fractured spirit of wolfkind. In the weeks and months that followed, the Obsidian Claw Pack, now significantly larger and more diverse, flourished under Thorn and Lyra's joint leadership. The Healing Center became a renowned sanctuary, a symbol of hope and unity across the Wolflands. Lyra, now openly revered as Luna and Healer, began to formalize her teachings, training a new generation of healers, sharing her knowledge of herbs and the delicate art of channeling energy. She established protocols for interpack cooperation on health and wellness, ensuring that no wolf would suffer unnecessarily due to archaic borders or prejudices. Thorn, true to his word, continued to champion Lyra's vision for a more inclusive society. He convened regular alpha councils, not to assert dominance, but to foster open dialogue, to discuss shared challenges, and to build a future based on collaboration rather than conflict. The old laws that condemned rogues and feared unique gifts were slowly reevaluated, reinterpreted, and in some cases, outright abolished, making way for a more enlightened, compassionate understanding of Crow. Wolfkind. The Obsidian Claw Pack became a beacon of this new era, a thriving testament to the strength that came from embracing diversity, from celebrating individual talents, and from forging true unity. Lyra, standing beside Thorn during one of these councils, felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. She looked at the faces of the assembled alphas, many of whom had once harbored deep suspicion, now listening intently to Thorn's words, their expressions thoughtful, open. She saw the small, brave pup who had first asked if she was a magic healer, now running freely in the clearing, playing with other pups from different packs, their laughter echoing through the air. She saw Rune, now a steadfast and loyal beta, nodding in agreement with Thorn, his once rigid stance softened by experience and understanding. Anya, Lyra's closest friend and unwavering supporter, stood by her side, a silent testament to the bonds of sisterhood forged in the crucible of conflict. Thorn squeezed her hand, his gaze meeting hers, a silent language of love and shared triumph passing between them. He had saved her life, in a way, by accepting her, by challenging the world for her. And she, in turn, had saved his, not just physically, but by showing him a path to a more meaningful, enlightened future for his pack and for all wolfkind. Their love story, born from a desperate act of hidden compassion in a blood-soaked forest, had blossomed into something far greater than themselves. It was a testament to the power of connection, the courage to challenge prejudice, and the transformative potential of acceptance. Lyra, the rogue healer who had saved the Alpha's life, had not only found her mate and her home, but had helped usher in a new, more hopeful era for an entire species, an era where the ancient fears and divisions began to fade, replaced by the dawn of a new, unified future. The silent bond between them, once a terrifying secret, now resonated as a powerful anthem of hope, echoing through the revitalized lands.